The storm had arrived without warning, turning the evening sky dark as midnight and sending sheets of rain across the city with the fury of nature unleashed. Marcus Thompson stood at his front door, watching the weather through the glass panels, as his 8-year-old son, Jamie, finished his homework at the kitchen table behind him. At 35, Marcus had learned to find contentment in the simple rhythms of single parenthood. His modest home in the suburbs was nothing fancy, but it was warm and safe, filled with the comfortable clutter of a man raising a child on his own. He worked as a senior project manager at Sterling Enterprises, a job that paid well enough to provide for Jamie while allowing him the flexibility to be present for school events and bedtime stories. The doorbell rang just as thunder shook the windows, and Marcus opened the door to find his CEO standing on his front porch, soaked to the skin and clearly shaken. Victoria Sterling looked nothing like the composed executive who commanded boardroom meetings with quiet authority. Her usually perfect auburn curls were plastered to her face, her cream-colored dress was drenched, and she was shivering despite the warm evening air. "Miss Sterling," Marcus said, immediately stepping aside to let her in. "What are you doing here? Are you all right?" Victoria hesitated at the threshold, clearly uncomfortable with the role reversal that had placed her in need of help from one of her employees. "I am so sorry to bother you at home, Marcus. My car broke down about 3 blocks from here, and my phone is dead. The storm came out of nowhere, and I remembered that you lived in this neighborhood." As she spoke, Marcus noticed that she was not alone. A boy who appeared to be around Jamie's age stood behind her, trying to shelter behind her slight frame. He had the same intelligent green eyes as his mother, but where Victoria maintained her professional composure even in crisis, her son looked genuinely frightened by the storm's intensity. "Please, come in out of the rain," Marcus insisted, ushering them both inside. "Both of you are soaked through." Jamie looked up from his homework as the visitors entered, his face lighting up with curiosity rather than concern. At 8 years old, he possessed the natural resilience of children who had learned to adapt to unexpected situations. "Dad, who is this?" Jamie asked, approaching the group with the fearless friendliness that Marcus had always admired in his son. "This is Ms. Sterling, my boss from work, and her son," Marcus explained. "They got caught in the storm." Victoria's son stepped forward slightly, still staying close to his mother. "I am Ethan," he said quietly. "I am 9 years old." "I am Jamie, and I am 8, Jamie replied immediately. "Do you want to see my room? I have a really good view of the lightning from my window." For the first time since arriving, Victoria smiled genuinely. "Ethan loves storms, actually. He has been fascinated by weather patterns since he was very small." Marcus noticed the way Victoria's voice softened when she spoke about her son, revealing a warmth that her professional persona kept carefully hidden. "Let me get you both some dry clothes and some hot tea. Jamie, why do not you show Ethan your weather books while I help Miss Sterling get comfortable?" As the boys disappeared upstairs, chattering about thunder and lightning, Marcus found himself alone with his CEO in a situation that defied every boundary of their professional relationship. Victoria stood in his modest living room, dripping rainwater onto his worn hardwood floors, looking smaller and more vulnerable than he had ever imagined possible. "I have some of my sister's clothes upstairs that should fit you," Marcus offered. "She stays here sometimes when she visits with her kids." Victoria nodded gratefully. "Thank you, Marcus. I know this is highly inappropriate showing up at your home like this. If you would prefer to just call me a taxi when the storm passes, I completely understand." "Ms. Sterling," Marcus said gently, "you are a mother caught in a storm with your child. Nothing about offering you shelter is inappropriate. It is just human decency." 20 minutes later, Victoria emerged from the guest bathroom wearing a simple blue sweater and jeans that belonged to Marcus's sister. Without her designer clothes and perfect makeup, She looked younger, more approachable, and somehow more real than the executive who signed his paychecks. "The boys are having quite a conversation upstairs," she said, accepting the mug of tea Marcus offered her. "I have not seen Ethan this animated about meeting someone new in a very long time." Marcus studied her face, noting the exhaustion around her eyes that spoke of someone carrying more responsibility than one person should. "Bear, how long have you been raising Ethan on your own?" "Since he was 4, Victoria replied, settling onto the couch with obvious relief. His father decided that being a parent was incompatible with his career ambitions. He moved to London for a job opportunity and has not looked back. The admission hung in the air between them, a moment of honesty that crossed every professional boundary they had maintained for 3 years of working together. "I know the feeling," Marcus said quietly. "Jamie's mother left when he was 2. She said she felt trapped by motherhood and needed to rediscover herself. Last I heard, she was backpacking through Europe, finding herself one country at a time." Victoria looked at him with surprise, seeing her own struggle reflected in his experience. "I had no idea you were a single parent when I hired you. It was not in your file." "I do not usually discuss my personal life at work," Marcus replied. "But watching you tonight, seeing how you protect Ethan even when you are struggling yourself, I recognize a fellow parent doing whatever it takes to keep their child safe and happy." The storm continued to rage outside, but inside Marcus's home, an unexpected conversation was unfolding. Victoria found herself talking about the challenges of balancing executive responsibilities with motherhood, the guilt of missing school events for board meetings, and the loneliness of having no one to share parenting decisions with. Marcus listened with the understanding of someone who faced the same struggles, offering insights and reassurance that came from lived experience rather than professional courtesy. "You know," Victoria said as the evening progressed, "in 3 years of working together, I never realized how much we have in